Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Marco CG77 or Marco Collective Gamer 77 here, and today, as promised, is the original cult classic Breakers, released on the Neo Geo arcades and home console for the AES back in 1996, and of course 2 years later in 1998. Breaker's Revenge was released. I've already done a quick overview of Breaker's Revenge, so this will be primarily going over the 1996 original title, Breakers, by Visco Games. This game itself is a cult classic, in fact still played today in some fighting game tournaments because of its tight gameplay, fast and smooth control, decent animation for its time, and of course again, as I mentioned, the tight gameplay. There are 8 characters to control in this game, also along with their copycat clone characters, which are given actually alternate names. If you were to fight Dao Long, you basically fight his alternate. And as you can see, like most fighting games of that time, back in the 90s, there are definitely some character inspirations from Street Fighter 2. This game does have, as I mentioned, 8 characters, and each one you can actually fight their, again, palette swapped alter ego. So the main characters are Sho Kamui, who is the lead character, is basically a young karate expert from Japan. Again, much like Ryu, pursuing his strength in the world. You've got his rival, Li Daolong, who is Sho's rival, as I mentioned, a young Korean who practices Chinese martial art called the Empty Fist. Tia Lang Rei, a female fighter and who's a red leotard, basically is a Muay Thai fighter. Again, also you've got Piel Montero as an Italian nobleman who fights with a fencer's weapon or a rapier or a saber. Condor Heads is a Native American fighter who uses a grappling style. And Sheikh Mahurl is a stocky Arabian fighter who fights with a scimitar and also uses fire projectiles, and for his super basically can summon a Jin, which you can see in this fight absolutely wrecks me. Ryla Estancia is a wild-hearted fighter from Brazil who has some animation styles a little bit like Blanca. She does not electrocute anybody. She does have a dash attack and also uses a lot of kicks as well. Alcyon III is an undead ancient Egyptian who has very much limbs much like Dalsem, but does have also electric and poison attacks. Huang Baihu is the game's final boss. And if you are playing a single player mode, instead of fighting a clone of yourself, they've basically added alter egos for each character, as I mentioned. So Sho's alter ego is Jin Sawamura. Wang Lu Kai is Dao Long's alter ego. Shirley Tarler is Tia's alter ego. George is Piel's alter ego. Red Geigers is Condor's alter ego. Javar is Mahurl's alter ego. Virgo Sandra is Ryla's alter ego, and Atum is Alcyon III's alter ego. As mentioned, Breakers was originally released for the Neo Geo MVS and AES systems back in 1996. It did receive a home version in 1997 for the Neo Geo CD, and also received a collection for the PC and consoles in 2019. In fact, if you are a collector, there is a company that is reprinting officially the AES cartridges in Europe. I believe they're going for about $400 or $500 per cartridge, but again, you get a full snap case. So if you are an AES collector and want to pick up these games and make sure that it's, again, it is a reprint, but it is one that is actually licensed. That said, and of course, as you can see from the video here, you can see why, for even such an old game made in 1996, who of course came during the fighting game scene that a lot of copycat companies did to try to take advantage of Street Fighter 2 and its fame, Breakers does distinguish itself in both the animation for its characters. They're all fluid, very well animated, tight controls in gameplay, good varied backgrounds and graphics. There are definitely some separate layers, not quite parallax or moving stages like in Fatal Fury, but definitely still, stand out for its time. There is some decent animation in the background, not as colorful as some, but at least not as dead quiet for not moving like a lot of others. The game itself is pretty similar to Street Fighter 2 or Fatal Fury in that basically do either charge moves or quarter circle or half circle motions to utilize a lot of the special moves. The buttons themselves are A button for light punch, B button for light kick, C button for heavy punch, and D button for heavy kick or hard kick. The characters do have 3 levels in regards to their super moves, which you can of course unleash. As you can see with this video, I'm sure you can pretty much surmise and glean, I did not look at any controls or any manuals for this game, and tried to figure out as much as I could for this quick overview. So as you can see, as I was trying to fight, there are some limited combos which you can do, which can range anywhere from 3 to about 8 hits. The gameplay, again, I said, is very tight, much faster than Fatal Fury 1, 2, or Fatal Fury Special. I think it definitely has more of the speed of Fatal Fury 3 and onwards, and even Real Bout. For Street Fighter 2, I would say it's very close to that, but does introduce super special moves, which Street Fighter 2 did not really introduce until Super Street Fighter. There's only 8 characters, and even with the character swaps, I wish you could use more. Breakers Revenge, of course, did add a few more characters and quite a bit more stages, but for the game of its time, Breakers was very well done, and you can easily see why, even though it is a niche called title, still a very fun game to play with friends. You can pick this up on Steam. I believe the Breakers collection is still available, and you can pick this up on the Nintendo eShop digitally. I would love if limited run games were to release a lot of the ACA collections in their own cartridge for the Nintendo Switch, hopefully with a classic edition as well. So limited run games, if you can hear this, please work with SNK, Visco, Claymore, and any of the other companies in order to be able to release the ACA games for the Neo Geo physically on a Switch cartridge with a physical hard copy shock box or a snap lock case. I'm sure you will find a lot of Neo Geo fans that would pick this up. And as you can see on the video, I am using Ryla here, and I'm fighting Condor. A nice little background stage here right in front of a train station. I was kind of hoping a little bit more like either Fatal Fury 3 where they're going through, or sorry, Fatal Fury 2 or Fatal Fury Special, where it was actually a bit more moving, like fighting on top of the train. But still, there's enough at least parallax and movement in the background that it still looks very nicely animated. This game does control very well. There's not a lot of lag, which is one of the main reasons why, thanks to the graphics, the tight gameplay, and the varied characters for having such a small roster, make this game still a fun game to play. I definitely recommend playing this game with friends. It is fun to try to figure out some of the moves and try to find your favorites. I did find a bit more success with Ryla. She has got a good combination of both speed and power with her attacks. I definitely will eventually look up the rest of her moves. Again, I was just trying to figure out what to do with either fire motion or charging motions like that attack that you see there. So the fierce charge, if you do the fierce button, it's actually a swipe down, and then if you do the light charge, it's a high attack up. Again, definitely recommend this title. Cult classic, $8 on the eShop. Still a fun game to play with friends. Easily worth $8 or the cost of basically a venti size, Starbucks espresso or a large frappuccino. That said, this will have many hours of fun gameplay for both this and Breakers Revenge. Hard to believe that this game is 25 years old. Yes, it doesn't have the flash and pizzazz of today's fighters, but for the fact of just being able to take the trip down memory lane, as I only played this in the arcades once, of course during that time in '96, there was quite a few distractions like Marvel superheroes or the Street Fighter Alpha series that made this game not being able to stand out during that time, because there were a lot of great fighters. But to be able to go back, play this again, and discover this is definitely a lot of fun. So thanks everyone for watching this quick overview. Please like and subscribe, and come back to the channel as I've got many videos that I'm catching up on.